Good morning. This is episode 2, and we are on the pathways to his promises. So, this morning I really felt led to start this. And again, I have my trusty notebook, so we're going to use that for reference quite a bit. But I wanted to go over this episode, and I'm going to split it. I felt really led to do this, but I don't think we're going to get it all done today. I think we're going to just have to break it into 2 parts. It's going to be phase 1 and then phase 2 as far as that's concerned. But the pathways devotion today is going to be on the pathway of the healing of the heart. So we're going to call this healing of the heart, the pathway to the healing of the heart, part 1. Okay, so that's going to be for today. We're going to drive in here to a little bit deeper. We're going to dive in, and I'm going to share a little bit more of a vulnerability of my life and pray that it could be a blessing and help you as well, and just talk about my personal experiences and pray that you could also have your pathway to your healing and through this process. So I'm going to start in here. So last week we are going to recap. We're going to talk about, we talked about the pathways, about, just life in general. So this one is going to be a little bit more narrowed down. It's going to be a little bit more focused on that specific pathway to continue to that pathway and healing in the specific area of the heart. Okay, so we're not talking about being blind or lame, can't walk. We're talking specifically about the pathway to the healing of the heart. So I definitely think this lesson is going to need to be broke up. It's going to be an extensive deep study, and I do think we're going to have to do this in 2 parts. So if you could just bear with me, I'll try not to leave this on too much of a cliffhanger for next week, to be on the edge of your seat, but I think that may be the direction we'll have to go for this one. So as far as this is concerned, we're going to dive straight in. Okay, so if I'm 100% honest, as a woman, I would definitely say that my heart has been on a roller coaster. Okay, if we're all honest as women, I could definitely think you could agree with me that sometimes our heart feels like it's up and down and around. Sometimes could be even listed as upside down. Okay, so for example, I guess you could say in a good way, when I met my husband, my heart was all over the place. Okay, I was in love. I had the rose-colored glasses. I was like, oh, you don't have no flaws. Nope. I got my glasses. I love you. And my heart was all over the place. Okay, or a moment that I would walk down the aisle for my wedding and just making the commitment of forever. My heart was again on that roller coaster. Or even the first time that I have come to know the Lord when I was a little girl, I would say that my heart was even to then all over the place. Meeting your love of your life and meeting your husband or getting married, those are all good roller coasters. Those are all exciting roller coasters. Those are all life events that would be considered positive, right? But I've also been on some scary roller coasters. And if you've ever been to Dollywood or you've ever been to amusement park, Cedar Point, I'm from Michigan, so Michigan Adventures was one thing. But if you've ever been on a roller coaster, there's some that you enjoy and aren't so jerky and they're smooth and they're good. And then there's others that terrify you. Okay, you're like, not gonna go back on that one again, not today. So the other type of roller coaster that I have been on was not a positive one. I was abused. I was broken. I was abandoned. I was forgotten. I was dirty, unclean. I was such a mess. I was a mess. You'd look at me as a little girl and you would probably drive by and you would look and be like, does her mom not feed her? Does she not take a bath? Does she not know how to brush her teeth? Does she not know these things? Well, all the while my heart was on that same roller coaster, and as a little girl and as a child, I remember just feeling no security. Okay, so looking at that, I have learned many, 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 some healthy. Okay, some very, we're gonna say some, this is the timeline. Okay, we found some good coping mechanisms, but we found a lot lot more of the span of not healthy. Okay, so looking there, we're going to talk a little bit more about coping mechanisms. I had built walls. I had shut people out. I have run away. I have hide. I went to hide a lot. I forgot a lot of things. I would choose to even sometimes be passive aggressive. I would choose to try to self-preserve. I guess you could say self-preservation was something that I felt was necessary in my life, and those were all coping mechanisms. And then obviously being blue color personality, I would cry a whole lot. And I would even allow my heart to lead me so much into the point that such destruction, that I even considered the path of suicide. Okay, so my heart led me a lot into a lot of things that were unclean, unrighteous, and not good. Okay, so coping mechanisms, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so we all cope. We all have things that we've learned to process life, right? We've all taken the time, whether intentionally or unintentionally, have learned to cope through life. Okay, and that could be a good thing. There could be good coping mechanisms. Okay, there could be good ways to manage, stress. There could be a good way, taking a deep breath, managing, coping through emotions, and managing things that we face as human beings. God helps us and teaches us ways and sends people like, that would help lead us and guide us, and counselors and things that can help us manage the good ways. Okay, so coping is going to look differently for each person. We are going to learn, that some coping mechanisms, again, are good and healthy, and some are not. So humor is one of those coping mechanisms. Some people would choose to laugh it off. They would choose to wear a smile, and then hope that nobody would notice. Some people choose to, and I can say this as a testimony, that some people, I'm guilty, been there, done that, coped this way, so this is about me. But if you can relate, hopefully this can help you too. But that saying, okay, that saying goes, fake it till you make it. Act like everything's okay, right? Fake it till you make it. Just wear a smile. Just be who you are, right? Just, nobody will know. Just fake it till you make it, right? That's how we get through life. We just fake it. We just fake it till we make it. And if I'm truly transparent, none of these coping mechanisms ever helped me. And to be honest, they truly won't ever help. They just help you cope, right? They're a coping mechanism. So they will never truly help you either. God has not called us to cope. Okay, I'm just going to be real as real get out. God has not called us to coping mechanisms. God has not called us to just deal with it, right? He hasn't called us to do those things. He hasn't even called us to fake it till you make it. Okay, we can sit and we can justify it any way we want. But God has not called us to fake it until we make it. God has better plans. God has better things for us. He is much greater and much more in store. Okay, he has so much more things in store for us. And if we can allow him to walk ahead of our path, like we talked about, if we can allow him to walk ahead of us and lead us, truly, truly lead us, even into the pathway of healing of the heart. Yes, I mean the healing of not the physical heart, not the heart that has, arteries and veins and things, but truly the healing of the heart, to where we can really find restoration. We can really, truly find peace. And he will do that for us, I promise you. Now, as a young lady, I always thought, to myself when, let's say, a pastor or a minister would call people for healing, that they would be referencing, come up to the front, and even still today I hear this, come up to the front for healing, let the elders lay hands on you that pray that the sick might recover. They must. They're not talking to me. I'm not blind. I can walk. I'm not in a wheelchair, right? I don't need that healing. I don't need to go, why? I don't have a withered hand. I don't have those things, right? I don't need healing. What do I need to go for? Sister so-and-so is dealing with cancer. Her husband just had heart surgery. Why in the world would I go up there? Why would I choose to steal somebody else's spot in the line? Why would I? No, they need it more. Why? No, I'm not going up there, right? Okay. And I don't know about you, but I've thought those things. I've thought that they weren't talking to me. I'm married. I got kids. My life is good. Why would I need healing, right? So looking at that, I would never have considered to go up for healing. I never would have considered to go, and I'm just being honest. I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. I know without a shadow of a doubt that, I'm not the only one that has thought this, right? I mean, if we're just honest, I'm honest, okay? But deep down, I would stand in the pew and I knew I needed healing, and I didn't really know exactly what. I couldn't really put it into words. I didn't know exactly what kind of healing that I needed. I never knew if I could say, somebody that's blind, they knew they were blind. They knew they needed to see. They knew they needed to walk if they never were able to walk before. I knew that those people have the ability to narrow it down to what exactly they needed healing for. I didn't know what to ask God. I didn't know that my heart was needing healing. I didn't know these things, but I just could word it into I felt robbed. I felt robbed. I felt robbed of my childhood. I felt robbed of stability, consistency, and even the love of not only my parents. Sorry, my dog is climbing all over me, trying to get her to listen, so bear with me. My puppy is all over the place. But I felt robbed. I felt like I had been stripped away of every foundation of stability and consistency, and not only that, but I felt robbed of safety. I felt robbed of security. I felt robbed of my protection. I felt robbed of my innocence. And like I said, we're going to get deep. Okay, we're going to get deep into some things that I felt those things. I didn't really know how to put it into words, but God knows. He knows. Now, those experiences, they left me with one giant, just oozing, seeping, wounded heart. And I think, the wound, it just oozes and it drips and it's ugly and it needs some peroxide. It needs some alcohol. It needs some healing, okay? And that's what was my heart. That's what my heart looked like. It just was this big old meaty, fleshy, ugly, ugh, right? And it just was becoming so broken, so torn apart, that I thought all of these coping mechanisms were going to be the glue, right? Yeah, they're going to glue me back together. They're going to put all the pieces back together. I mean, really, if we're honest, super glue, that pretty much fixes it all, right? It fixes everything. Just glue it. Fine, I'm fine, you're fine, I'm fine, right? We're all fine, right? We're fine. We'll just glue it back together and everything would be fine. Or so I thought. Now, that glue I used, it got hard. It got so hard that my heart would become hard and it would be calloused. And I think if somebody's hands, like a farmer's hands, that would be so rough if I tried hard enough or good enough, that if I could do enough, if I could be enough, if I could be faithful enough, if I could work hard enough, if I could do these things enough, if I could do these things enough, I would be okay. I'd be okay. I'd have the brokenness fixed. The glue would be fixing it. I would be okay. But it didn't. It didn't fix that brokenness underneath. It didn't fix. I could still feel. I knew the glue was there. I knew it wasn't oozing anymore. It wasn't dripping anymore. It wasn't. It was glued back together. But I could still feel the brokenness underneath. I could still feel as though there was something. But I was saved. I was in church. I was doing right. I'm okay. Right? I go to church. I'm good. Right? I'm fine. But looking back, it was about 2 years ago now. So looking back in my life, it's just been about 2 years ago that this recently happened. I remember it literally as if it was yesterday, because this moment in my life has meant so much to me, and I don't even think they are aware, but clearly, I guess today they will be. But recently, 2 years ago, I just recently had just suffered my very first miscarriage. And I cannot tell you how broken I was. I cannot tell you into words. I was just thrown off guard. I had two normal pregnancies before this one. I never dreamed a miscarriage would come my way. I just wasn't something I thought of, right? And I had become, at this point, a master at my coping mechanisms. I had become a master. I had become a master at getting all of these coping mechanisms under control. I knew exactly what coping mechanisms that I needed to do to bear through this, to get healing through this. And then I thought that I could control it. I thought that it would be fine. I thought that I would be good. And one night, if I'm honest, I couldn't tell you if it was a Sunday. I couldn't tell you if it was a Wednesday. I just knew I was at church. Okay? I just knew I was there. But what I can tell you is that whatever the service was, all I know is what I felt was something different, something new, something deeper, something, honestly, exciting, something that I never dreamed would happen. Okay, so Brother Erickson, I don't know what the message was. I couldn't tell you who preached. I couldn't tell you what the message was about. But Brother Erickson laid his hands on my head. And he just, like a normal person, just prayed, prayed for me, right? He did. He laid his hands and he prayed over me, and this was so significant to me because I remember exactly what he prayed, and I don't remember ever hearing somebody else pray like this before, and if they did, Lord forgive me, but I just don't remember it. But he laid his hand on my head and he prayed this prayer. He said, God, heal her. And it wasn't a healing service. It was just it was just a normal prayer. I was up at the altar, and he said, heal her in her body, mind, soul. I was like, I've never heard somebody pray like that. I've never had, God touch her eyes, let her see, let the cancer be gone, let all, I've heard that before, but I've never heard somebody say something along the lines of healing a body, heart, mind. I've never heard that. Soul. I've never heard that prayer prayed. So I'm just going to be honest. At first, I was like, okay. I was confused. As all get out. At first time, I just walked away, and I've never ever had a pastor or anybody pray healing over my body, heart, and mind before. I didn't really quite understand why my heart, mind, or had anything to do with healing. I never really put two and two together. I'm not a theologian. Okay, I'm just me. Okay, I just know what I know. But as goes a seed, comes forth a plant. And little did he know, he planted a seed that has now grown. And that seed has now led me here today to continue sharing with you in this devotional, in this pathway, I guess you could call it, of healing of the heart. Okay, so Psalms 34:18, we're going to get our word and we're going to pull it up, and we're going to go to Psalms 34 and verse 18. Okay, let me get it for you. Alright, I should have had this open already. Bear with me. Okay, there we go. Psalms 34. Psalms 34:18, and it goes on to say that the Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit. Now we're going to go all the way back into the Old Testament. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 4 and verse 29. If you want to get your word, we're going to go to 4, right here, 29. And it says, but if from thence thou shalt seek the Lord thy God, thou shalt find him. And then it goes on to say, if thou seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul. When thou art in tribulation and all these things are come upon thee, even in the latter days, if thou turn to the Lord thy God, and shall be obedient unto his voice. For the Lord thy God is a merciful God. He will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, nor forget the covenant of thy fathers, which he sware unto them. So that was going on all the way down to verse 31. So continuing forward, we're going to also go into a little bit of Joshua. Okay. We're going to go to Joshua and chapter 22. All right, so Joshua 22, if you're there, everybody say amen. Joshua 22, and then we're going to go to verse 5. But take diligent heed to the commandment and the law which Moses the servant of the Lord charged you, to love the Lord your God, and to walk in all of his ways, and to keep his commandments, and to cleave unto him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. So those three scriptures there, they go through. The first one, it says, talking about a broken heart, contrite spirit, means that you're vulnerable to God. He said that he would be hearing us and he'd be near to us. Deuteronomy went through, he said if we seek the Lord, he would help us. He would be there, and he would remember. He said he would remember the ways of our forefathers. And if we gave him our heart, not only is he near to us, or he's going to remember, but it also says there in Joshua that if we served him with all of our hearts and we kept his commandments, and we loved the Lord, we would be able to be blessed. And it says, so Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went into their tents. So that was Joshua speaking to the people about getting our hearts right. Excuse me. Now, God is a God of our heart. Okay, he's a God of your heart. He's a God of my heart. He's a God of our kids' hearts. He's a God of your heart too, sister. Okay, he's not just the God of the Old Testament or a God that we hear preached. He's not just the God that we will, some of you have been raised in church all your life and are fourth, third generation and have a great heritage, and that's amazing. That's a blessing. But he's not just the God of your grandma. He's not just the God of the pastor. He's not just God of the preaching. He's God of your heart too. Okay? He sees the tears that you cry. He sees you even wondering if you're enough. He sees you. He's there holding you when, if there's times that your husband or your friends have ever said hurtful things to you, he's there holding you when you're falling apart. He's there in your kitchen when you're trying to make dinner and your kids are screaming and you just got off work. He's there. He's there. He's there. He's there with you when you're doing dishes. He's there with you when you're changing diapers. He's there with you when you are again on that pathway and you're not really sure where it's going. He's there. Okay, I want to encourage you today that he's there in those moments. He's there. He was with me. He will also be with you. Okay, he is there. He's there in the mistakes. He's there when we're facing challenges. He's there when we are arguing with our spouse. He's there when we don't have the money to pay our bills. He's there when we're not really sure what path we're supposed to be on. He is there. He's there with you. He's there with me. He's there in our hearts, and he's wanting to fix it. So let's explore just a little bit more, okay? More into today's episode, I want to talk about healing of the heart. Like I said, it's going to be a huge lesson, so I'm not going to be able to cram it all into one. But I wanted to talk about a little bit there about going with the miracles and things. The miracles are right there around the corner. I wanted to talk about a little bit more about the healing power of Gilead. Okay, the healing power of the anointing, that balm. Okay, that balm of healing. Okay, I've prayed this prayer, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna tell you I know exactly the generational theological history of the healing balm of Gilead. I don't know. Okay, I'm not smart enough for that. I haven't. I don't know that. I do know, however, that it is mentioned a couple times in Scripture. And I wanted to dive in a little bit to that just very quickly. I'm going to set this here, and we're going to go to Genesis, and we're going to go to Genesis chapter 27 and 25. So Genesis is the beginning. We know Genesis means the beginning, and that's the very first book of the Bible. So very early on in history, it talks about the balm of Gilead. Okay, so we're going to go to chapter 37. I'm on 27, bear with me. I need to get over to 37. I'm in the wrong spot. There we go, 37. I need to be in chapter 37, verse 25. And it goes on to say, and they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm, myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? So it's the story of Joseph, and they have him in this pit, and these Ishmaelites come walking up, and they're going to go sell stuff. They got their balm, they got their myrrh, they got their things that they have, and they're going to go sell it, right? So it mentions that they have that balm of Gilead. So it's that special balm, and it goes on about the additional spicery that they had. And then we find out a little bit more. Excuse me. We find out a little bit more about this healing balm of Gilead, and it's going to be all the way in the book of Jeremiah. So I'm getting this ready so we find out a little bit more. And we're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 51. So let me get that pulling up here. 51. Okay, so chapter 51, and we're going to go to verse 8. So chapter 151, verse 8 says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her and take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. Okay, this really stuck to me. Okay, so I want to read that again. Okay, it's talking about Babylon fallen. It's talking about that history. But this is so vital. Okay, so vital. It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. Ooh, that makes me excited. I'm sorry. I'm giddy. So where Babylon is, again, they have given us, again, another example of how the power, they had the power over Israel. They needed healing, and Jeremiah the prophet gets up and he's talking and he's ministering and he's saying, if we take that balm, it could heal her. And of course, they're talking about Israel. They're talking about that. But I think that could, it speaks to me. If I could take that healing balm of Gilead and apply it to my life, I know that it could also help heal me. So what is a balm? Right? What is balm? What is the healing balm of Gilead? What does all of this mean? What is it? Because if you're like me, and sometimes I read the word and I'm like, okay, that was a good word, but what does it mean? And I have to, sometimes I Google it, sometimes I look it up, sometimes I need to know. But we know a balm. What do you think of? What do you think of when you hear balm? I think of chapstick. I think of the little Carmex. I think of the little, the little tin cans you put your little lip balm on. You're gonna, what do we do that for? We put it on our lips, right? And that is what I think of. Okay, I think of a lip balm. I think of those things, but a balm in the definition, again, and I had to look it up. I wanted to know what it meant. A balm is a fragrant ointment or preparation used to heal or soothe the skin. So obviously we know when we put chapstick on, sometimes we're putting it on to heal the broken cracks. Sometimes we're putting it on to heal the brokenness. And then other times we just put it on to prevent, right? We don't just put it on when our lips are bleeding and cracked and dry and ugly. We put it on to also prevent. So the healing balm of Gilead can do the same thing, right? We can do that same thing of praying that prayer of that healing balm of Gilead to not only heal the brokenness, right? It can seep and it can get in and it can heal, but then also it can prevent. So if you're in a season in your life and you're like, well, I don't have any brokenness, my life is, giddy, it's all good, it's fine, I'm good. You can also put the healing balm of Gilead to prevent things from coming. You can prevent wounds by putting on a balm, and you can do those things exactly how they done. Okay, so in the Old Testament, this specific balm, okay, they mentioned it a couple times in scripture already, but the specific balm of Gilead was very, very important, okay? It was very important to these people. It was sacred and it was special, and everyone that was trying to find this specific healing balm of Gilead, okay? Everybody was looking for it. I mean, it was valuable. They were selling it, and then balms also help restore us, okay? So looking at that, it was very special. It was very important. So looking there, let's see, I'm sorry, I lost my spot. So just like you or I, who will go to a specific store. Okay, so I'm a Kroger shopper, I will go to a specific store, I will go there and I will look exactly what kind of chapstick I want, right? I will get out, I will go to a specific store, I know what it is, I know what I want, I'm going to go there and I'm going to get it. And that one is my favorite, right? I'm going to go get my favorite balm. But again, obviously the Gilead balm was so sacred and so special that, that was a specific one, right? So, but anyways, the balm of Gilead is important. It has so much meaning and it is so powerful. But I'm going to leave this episode today, and I'm going to leave you with a little bit of homework, right? You never thought that devotional would be like school, and I promise it's not a lot. It's not going to be extensive. It's not going to be, get your word and, pray an hour or, be overwhelming. Okay, this is just going to be a little bit of homework. But before you check out prematurely, okay, just listen a little while longer. Just listen for a little bit. I want just to tell you what this little bit of homework is, okay? I want you to pray. I want you to pray. I want you to pray this little short prayer. It's just a little bit, okay? Pray this prayer. It doesn't have to be lengthy. It doesn't have to be time consuming. You could be scrubbing the dishes. You could be changing a diaper. You could be at work. You could be driving your car. It doesn't have to be a lengthy time. So if you could just do me this favor, go ahead and take this assignment. And I want you to pray, okay? I want you to say, God, pour out your healing balm of Gilead over my heart. Okay, so take this prayer. You can use your own words. Obviously, you don't have to recite it verbatim, but take this prayer. God, pour out your healing balm of Gilead over my heart. Do that for me this week before the next episode, before part 2 comes out. If you could just say that prayer, if you need to say it one time, great. If you need to say it every day of the week before the next episode, good. There's oftentimes I pray this. There's oftentimes that I pray this prayer, and it's spiritual and it's good and it's healing. So I want you to do that. Okay, I told you it wouldn't be hard. I told you it wouldn't be extensive. I told you it wouldn't be, super, challenging. Okay, so we're going to stop here. Okay, so I said I'd try not to do a cliffhanger, but it feels like it is a cliffhanger because joy is coming in the morning. We have hope. We have restoration. We are on that pathway of healing. But sometimes healing, we have to dig up the old to get into the new. So that's what this episode was. It was stopping here to talk about what we are going to continue forward on into part 2 next week. And we are going to be ready to get episode 2, part 2 next Friday. Okay? So, at this point, if you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already, go ahead and click the like button for me. There's a little bell as well. If you wouldn't mind hitting that, it'll let you know when there's notifications about new videos or things. I'm going to use this page and I'm going to bring glory to God the best that I can. So just click the bell, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my page. I want this to reach as many women as I can. I want it to restore and heal as many people as I can find. And obviously the support is nice. The support of having friends and family liking and sharing my page means a lot to me. And obviously when you're starting something new, you want people to like it and you want people to enjoy it. So I hope this was a blessing to you. So if you wouldn't mind, you won't regret it. Just like, share, subscribe. You won't regret it. We're going to dive into some things here. I promise that you will enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. Be blessed. Also, really quickly, I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you for trusting and watching my videos. It means a lot. I've had a couple people come up to me that I am close to, and they have, said this has been a blessing. So I'm thankful that this is bringing forth fruit. I hope this blesses you. And hold on to your seat. We're going to dive into episode 2, part 2 next week, and we will be sure to get this taken care of so you're not on a cliffhanger much longer. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.